Real cases before a real judge.
Plaintiff Tanisha Lucas says she went to prison for selling crack cocaine. And when she saw her nephew, the defendant, headed down the same path, she took him in to help set him straight. However, she's suing him for the balance of a car. Defendant Samajay Dunn says by the time he was 26, he'd already been to jail 12 to 13 times, and he admits that Tanisha helped him straighten out his life. Samajay does not believe he owes Tanisha anything for the car.
All rise. This court is now in session. The Honorable Judge Greg Mathis presiding. You may now be seated.
Start with you.
Samajay is my nephew. He is my oldest sister's first son. We grew up together pretty much because I was about 10 years old when my sister had him. So we grew up in a tight-knit home. Once my nephew started growing up and getting adolescence, we noticed that he started going down, a different path, pretty much getting into trouble, trying to be hood, and he has no hood in him. He's very book smart.
Thank God he made it.
Smart.
Wannabe is the first ones that go. Go ahead.
Thankfully, we got him up out of there before that happened, because he's one of those kids that does not have any hood smarts. So thank God. Make a long story short, my nephew, I seen him start going down a path. Me, myself, Your Honor, I've been to prison before. I did 18 months in the state prison here in our hometown.
So you know what it's like, for real, for real.
Yes, I know what it's like, and it ain't no game. Trust me, when I got there, I was crying for my mama and was ready to go. So I seen him going down that same path. I didn't want him to go back that same path. I myself was selling crack cocaine to make a living. And it's not all fun and games. He was on his way to a second child with a different baby's mother. So this would be baby's mother number 2. He got put out of his mother's house at the time. She told him to go to the shelter. Instead of him going to the shelter, I told him just to come to my home, kind of trying to do that preventative maintenance type thing, give him the chance that I didn't get so he doesn't go down that path. When I got out of prison, it wasn't all fun and games, Your Honor. There wasn't all these rehabilitation things that they had promised me when I was in prison, and they're going to help me get a job.
Still
I was
not.
applying for jobs. Yeah, I know it's still not, but they promise you this. While you're there, they're telling you, hey, when you get out, we got your back. We got your resources. So I ended up working 2 jobs, Your Honor. I was working at a production cleaning house. So we wash like uniforms for employees that have jobs, and we clean the rugs of the production companies, as well as shooking turkeys. So I resorted from a college graduate having everything to now I'm working minimum wage, 2 jobs to survive, and shooking turkeys.
That's what you had, those 2 jobs? You worked hard. Was this after or before you moved your nephew in?
This is while my nephew was staying with me. He saw me walking to work. I would walk to the cleaning job, and then afterward, I would get a ride to go shook the turkeys. So he witnessed all of it. He saw the struggle. He's seen it all, and I just didn't want him to go down that same path.
How was he responding? Was he using you as a good example and trying to do his best in all his endeavors?
I will say he was doing his best. He was trying. He was semi-applying himself, but he was still young and adolescent. He had a job while he stayed with me. He was working for, I'm not sure which computer company it was. Like I said, he's really, really smart, book smart and computer smart. He's really good in this generation as far as technology goes.
So how did things progress when him living with you and then leaving? And then what did he do with himself afterwards?
When he left, he did leave and get his own apartment. So he was providing for himself. And he's a great father. He's always provided for the children that he has now. So he didn't necessarily not apply himself, but he could do better.
In my opinion, the measure of success for someone is to be able to first take care of themselves and meet their obligations. That's what success is to me. Anything beyond that is gravy. And you've said that he's been taking care of himself and that he meets his obligations with his children. So to me, is success. Let me hear from you, young man. Give me some background, and then we'll get to the car she's suing about.
So this is my aunt, Tanisha. She's one of my favorite aunts. So growing up as a child, my mom worked 2 jobs. So I spent a lot of time with my auntie, and growing up, we built a very close bond. So me and Tanisha, when I first turned 21, she took me out to my first bar, my first real bar, and I had my first fun, real time, and it was awesome. I remember things like that with her. She's always been there for me.
Did she get you a stripper? Did she get you a stripper?
I'm not gonna lie to you, Judge Mathis. Yes, we did all that.
She did you right. Go ahead.
Yeah, so we've always had a really good relationship. Now, once I started going down the wrong path, making the wrong decisions, getting in trouble a lot, things like that. I've had a very troubled youth. Once I turned 18, before I even hit 26, I had about 12 to 13 times I had been to jail over the smallest, tiniest, any and everything, Your Honor. And Tanisha was the one to tell me things like, hey, that might not be what you should be doing right now. Maybe you shouldn't be hanging out with them. You shouldn't be over there, things like that, to kind of redirect me to the right direction, bring me back to on track, you know. Since then, I've gone to barber school. I went to college, got my barber license, and I've been doing that since last July. Excellent. And my life has changed for a much better direction since then.
Excellent. I'm proud of you. Proud of you. And your children, what's the status of your 2 children? How old are they, and what's their status in life?
Yes, so I actually have 3 children now. So I have a new 2-year-old who's soon to be 3. I've got a 4-year-old who's soon to be 5, and I've also got an 8-year-old. All of my kids, I see them all the time. I love them to death. I got a 4-year-old daughter. She's probably my pride and joy the most, man. She's my heart and joy. She absolutely saved me from this world, and I'm God bless to have her.
Good, good. God bless you for recognizing the gift of children and the responsibility that you've taken seriously. Now tell me what happened with the car.
My nephew had borrowed the vehicle to go to the store to obtain tobacco products. He told me he was going to the store that was 2 blocks around the corner from the house when he took the keys and originally left. And I said, okay. I later got a phone call about half hour later from one of my friends who was passing by, and she saw that my nephew had wrecked my vehicle.
Now, did he say he was going to the store or to the dispensary?
He said he was going to the store to get
that accident
products.
sound like dispensary. Tobacco don't make you do all that. Go ahead.
You know, I just went with it. But later on, I found out once she called me, I got a phone call from the officers, and they told me that my nephew had wrecked the vehicle. I got a ride from the same friend who saw him. He ended up being about 1.5 miles away from the house. To my knowledge, he went to the Family Dollar. Like I said, my nephew does not have any hood in him. So he got into a small fender bender at the Family Dollar. Now, this could have been solved by him simply giving the man the information in the glove box, exchanging, you know, your insurance. It wasn't that serious of an accident or anything. But my nephew decided to run. So he backed into someone at the Family Dollar, and he decided to run. The people, the bystanders, gave the license information, and the police started to pursue him. During that pursuit, he went to turn a corner thinking that he was doing like Grand Theft Auto, you know, because he don't know how to drive like that. He ain't never been in trouble like that to be knowing how to run from the police or nothing. We was actually raised with that good old silver spoon in the mouth. So he don't know nothing other than Grand Theft Auto or whatever the TV showed him about reckless driving. He runs into the sign.
Or rap music about the streets. Go ahead, a video.
That's it. He was probably listening to, you know, late DMX, R.I.P. DMX, I don't know, but he thought he was a gangster. And the gangster in him got caught at the red light.
He stopped for the red light.
Okay, he stopped for the red light. Say he stopped for the red light. Real gangsters don't, huh? All right. So what happened with the car?
So, Your Honor, if you look in my evidence, if you turn to page, I believe it's page 3, when he turned the corner, he actually ran into a sign which totaled out the vehicle. So if you look at page 3 and page 4. Yep.
Oh, whoa.
Yep. So when I arrived at the scene, you know, Lord help me, I wasn't the most composed. Once I seen the vehicle, and like I said, I had to shuck turkeys to get this vehicle. So I was highly upset. The officer had explained to me what happened. He told me that the young man had ran from the police, and he admitted to fault and everything. The reason why he was not criminally charged, Your Honor, was because he is my nephew. The officer said, I can criminally charge him, but why would me, his aunt, want to put some criminal charges and make it harder for him to get a job knowing what I've already went through? So I didn't. I let the state handle the damages he caused to the sign that he hit, and that was it. So he paid his restitution. Once he was finished paying his restitution with the state, he was supposed to start paying me at least $100 to $200 a month, monthly, to start paying for some of these damages that he's caused on the vehicle.
How much have you received?
0.
Let me hear from you, young man.
All righty. So what had happened with the accident was I had went to the store to go grab some tobacco. Once I had got to the store, grabbed the tobacco, I was leaving the store. As I was backing up, I had backed into dude's, like his side mirror on the side of his car. And I tried to talk to him and try to get him not to call the police and handle it not the police route, because I didn't have my license at the time. So I was very scared on what was going to happen. So once he got on the phone and started calling the police, I kind of just panicked and I just ran. And I passed the officer on my way to the house, and he turned the lights on and I started going faster. I thought I could try to drift this little corner. I ran into that sign and smacked into a church and got out the car, tried to run, and, you know, got caught up.
That's because you didn't have a driver's license.
Yeah.
That's what a gangster does. That's because they don't have their license. Only gangster I know that did all that is when they got some kilos in the trunk or an AR-15 that has been used in a murder. You do all that because you might get a ticket. Or at the most, I might go to jail overnight. Oh! I might spend a night in jail. So let me go on a high-speed chase beyond the police. You said he's what?
He ain't got no street smart.
No, you said something about brilliant. You said something about brilliant.
Oh, he's got book smarts, but this was a street decision.
That's even in the book. That's even in the book. License
They didn't have a book on this.
misdemeanor. It says misdemeanor in the book. So he don't have that. Else he'd remember reading that. But driving without a license is a misdemeanor. I don't even think you get any punishable up to 30 days, but who gives somebody without their license 30 days? All right, so why don't you think you should have to pay her?
So, Your Honor, I did do restitution, and I did also have fines. Now, my fines that I had paid, I was also on probation for a year. I was paying to be on probation as well for all my drug tests and to maintain and stay on probation. I did successfully complete those things.
Oh, so she should be fine then. Your case is dismissed. He went on, he served the state probation. He gave the state money. He did this and that for other people.
But he ain't paid me nothing. They're billing me for the vehicle.
Oh, I'm messing with him. I'm saying he telling me all this stuff you done did for other people who are strangers. What did you do for your aunt? You tore her car up $14,000. What'd you do for her?
He cut the grass, Your Honor. He did. He cut the grass.
Okay, so take $50 off.
Nah, he didn't do no weed eating. He just cut the grass. $25.
That's $30. 30.
The lines were straight though. I had
Oh,
straight
seriously,
lines,
what? Tell me about paying her, sir. Otherwise, why wouldn't you have to?
I was assuming that I paid a lot of fines and things, so I paid around $7,000. So I was assuming that that money I was paying, I was assuming they were supposed to reimburse Tanisha or at least pay the insurance that would pay her back. I'm not entirely positive about how that whole process works.
That's in the law book. When you damage somebody's property in an act of negligence, you owe them money. And they don't have to file an insurance claim if they don't want to. If they don't have it, you're certainly going to pay. If they do have it and don't want to use their insurance to pay for something you did, they don't have to. She said, I'm not going to file it on my insurance because it'll run my insurance up $100 a month. And that's $1,200 a year. No, I'm not doing that. You pay me for the damage you did to my car. So all that stuff you just mentioned was irrelevant to making her whole. So what other reason? You thought some of the money was going to her.
Because I'm his auntie, he just wanted me to write it off.
14 grand, write it off.
Nice.
Yeah, pretty much. When I went to purchase my house last year, Your Honor, I seen that it was on my credit. So that's why I provided you with the credit report, because it actually went up.
Mm-hmm. Well, don't blame him for all this. You got about 10 pages worth of bills you ain't paid.
No, I paid him, but
What does he have to do with non-payment to Neiman Marcus? What does he have to do with non-payment to Gucci? What does he have to do with non-payment to Louis Vuitton? You didn't pay those. Don't blame all this on him. You need to start going, where were you at? Dollar. You need to start going to the dollar store. Stop going to these folks you can't pay. Just kidding. None of that is on there.
I'm like, I don't have those. If he did pay me, though, I could pay Gucci and I could pay.
There you go. Hey, brothers,
I'm
you
late.
got a sister here with good credit. Y'all better track her down. All you no good men that need a woman with some good credit, here she is. I'm bringing you a gift.
Yeah, he is.
So when you found out and you mentioned it to him, what did he say? When you saw that it was still on your credit?
He basically was like, well, I assumed just the same answers he gave you.
Okay.
And because like I said, I've rehabilitated myself. So since 2018, I started my own cleaning business. Wow. And that's what I've been doing. So I've been surviving, making good money, providing for my children. I put my daughter through college with this cleaning business. Good. So he felt like he didn't owe me because I'm doing well in life right now. Mm-hmm. That's pretty much the
right. That sounds
that
like me.
Yeah, once you make it, you got to fake it till you make it. But I've rehabilitated myself. I've done what I was supposed to do. Now I just want him to know, no matter how far in life you get, you still have to handle your responsibilities, because he's rehabilitated himself. And you know what, Judge? He bought the same car that he wrecked of mine for himself this year.
You need to hand it over to you.
I need the title once he's done paying.
Last remark from you, sir.
I am a hardworking young man, and I do plan on delegating and taking care of my obligations.
Okay. Well, let me say this. Even if your $7,700 went directly to her, but she's saying that money went toward the damage you did to the city property, which is probably the case. But even if every dime of it went to her, if every dime, you still owe her $6,000 for sure. Her damage was $13,900. So if that were the case, but that's not the case, you did pay the city back the restitution. So I'm going to grant her judgment for $5,000. All right, continued success to you. Stay on top of your obligations. You two should have worked that out. You should have been contacting him every week. Nephew, what are those coins?
I did. I couldn't even get no food stamps, Your Honor. I tried to get whatever I could get.
Now you're about to admit to fraud. Bye. Have a good day. Judgment for the plaintiff.
Nephew, I'm sorry that it resulted into this, but I am grateful that we got it resolved. Now you can just go on and continue to be successful and know that you paid your debt to society and to me.
Yeah, I'm hoping we can move all this out the way and move on with life.
Plaintiff Angela Scammahorn says around age 6, she first met her alleged father while he was in prison. Angela claims on her father's deathbed, he insisted she had no siblings. So she was shocked when the defendant claimed to be her half-sister. And that's why she petitioned the court for a DNA test. Defendant Candace Shoup says she first met her father on her 7th birthday, but they lost touch after that, and she searched for him for years. Candace truly believes Angela is her half-sister, and she's eager to get some closure today.
And ma'am, you petitioned the court for a DNA test to determine whether you all are siblings, is that right?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right, give me some background on how we came to this point.
When I grew up, I was raised by my grandparents, believing that they were my mother and father. My dad had got with my mom when she was 16, so they thought that it would be best for me to live with my grandparents with the lifestyle that my dad had at the time.
And whose parents were they, your mom's or your dad's?
Yes, they were my mom's.
Okay.
Yeah, They legally adopted me. When I was born, I went home with them. When I was around 5 or 6, my grandpa told me to come on. We were going to go to the zoo. And being 5, I was like so excited, couldn't wait to get there. Well, we didn't go to a zoo. We went to a jail, well as a prison. And my grandpa looked at me and he said, "You're going to meet your dad." Well, I had just met my mom, know that she was my mom just a few years prior. So we go into the prison and this man walks out and he tells me, "I'm your daddy." And I was scared, excited, mad, all the above. We, got a picture taken, talked a little bit, and then me and my grandpa left. And he tried to explain to me as a child why I couldn't be with, my dad and stuff and what was going on.
When you were informed about your mom, sounds like you may have been anywhere from 3 to 4.
Yeah.
And so at such a young age, how did she deliver that information to you, and did you digest it immediately? Could you get your arm? Could you get an understanding? What made her at that point, at that early point in your life, how did she deliver that news to you?
I believe that I knew, I can't, I was little, I can't say for sure, but I knew that she was my mom, and I always considered that I had 2 moms.
Okay.
So
you knew
and
that.
then I had
okay.
a brother, yeah.
Where did you meet Where did you meet your biological mom? Where did you meet her?
My mom lived with my grandparents at the time, being 16.
Got it.
So then my mom, moved out and had more children, my half siblings. But I always, as far as my memory, I remember she was my mom, but I did not know about my dad until that day.
I understand. And where did you all go from there? You having met your dad, what happened afterwards?
Basically, I just, continued living my life with my grandparents. And when my dad would get out, he would come and visit me. And, it'd be a few and far between. But as I got older, I rebelled and got into drugs and was kind of following the lifestyle that he was in. I got into drugs and ran with him home, went to juvie. I mean, it was just I carried a lot of anger toward them.
Towards your grandparents or your dad or your mom or who?
My dad and my mom.
Why did you feel anger? You felt that they had somewhat abandoned you?
Yeah, I've had abandonment issues pretty much until about 5 years ago when I met my new husband.
Weren't you ever given some explanation that may have explain their absence in a way that could comfort you and not cause resentment? You know, perhaps they said, you know, they were on drugs, and I know you were too young at that time to understand all that at age 6, but at any point, was all that explained to you and give you any sense of understanding?
My grandpa explained to me that my dad's lifestyle wouldn't be safe for me. I would be, I can't really go into, you know, what was going on, but it was a situation that I could have been, you know, hurt or something. So they protected me. And my mom, she got married and had children, but she was still young. And so they just felt like it would be best for me to stay with my grandparents, and I would go visit my mom. And when my dad, as I got older, Judge Mathis, you know, when you have two different lifestyles, you kind of clash. So I was doing drugs, he was clean. He was doing drugs, I was clean. So we just didn't meet in the middle until a year ago.
Is he still alive, your dad?
No, he passed away of COVID. He was one of the first people to have COVID, but they didn't know it was COVID at the time. They just thought it was pneumonia. So my dad at that time, they called me and let me know to come to the hospital. So I did. And, you know, my dad said, if there's some things you want to talk to me, you know, now's the time. And so we talked about, you know, why he wasn't there and what was going on. And I asked him, I said, I remember you bringing this little girl and this woman to mine, you know, it's where I lived. And I said, Dad, is that my sister? Do I have siblings? And he said, no, honey, that's it. You're it. So I didn't think anything of it. And after me and my dad, we got closure at that point. We knew where each other stood. We forgave each other because I had hurt him. He had hurt me. So we just, you know, thought we were going to work on our relationship when he came home. But he didn't come home. He passed away. And then it's been a rough year with COVID and everything. And then I get this video from a relative telling me, you know, that my sister wanted to talk with me. And she told me that she had looked for Dad and found the obituary. And somehow she got a hold of my relative. So I have been very skeptical. You know, I asked my dad, do you have any children? No. I asked after, you know, Dad passed, I'm like,
And this is after Candace reached out to you?
Yes, she reached out to me about a year
prior to your dad dying. Okay.
Yes.
Let me hear from you. Give me some background, Candace.
Yeah, I never did know my father at all. My mother, like Angie went through, I ended up meeting my father on my 7th birthday. I can either go to school or I can go see my father for the first time. So I took the choice to go see my dad. And it was a very good moment. We took pictures. I sat on his lap, and it was just a fun time. I've been searching for him off and on for many, many years. My mom really didn't mention him a lot to me. She kind of didn't bring up the subject of knowing who he is.
What would she tell you when you asked?
She would just go to another subject.
Did you ever look back and find out why she didn't want you to know, or did you ultimately find out why she didn't want to discuss it and tell you?
Well, I found out after I became a teenager.
Yeah.
Who he was. I met him quite a few times.
Why do you think she didn't want to tell you earlier, though?
I think she didn't. It was a protection thing. They sat me down one time and they told me, both of them, you know, Dad had done some things in his life that he wasn't proud of, and he would prefer that I would be protected of not knowing who he was.
Okay. That sounds like a lot of question marks hanging around everywhere you go. Let's put it that way. When you were at school, people wanted to know who your daddy was. When you were, if you went to church, people wanted to know who your daddy was. When you went on the playground, people wanted to know who your daddy was. When you walked up and down the street, people wanted to know who your daddy was. They may not have said it to you, but they were saying it to somebody. And it got back to your mother. And so that's why I'm trying to understand what she was even telling other people. She couldn't just skip the subject with everybody.
Well, my older brothers and sisters, which majority of them are deceased, I was told a lot of stories by them as growing up of who my dad was. My sister, she told me a lot about him as growing up. He was really stern with her and all my other brothers and sisters. That I was never the one to really get to know who he was, which I would have loved to know who he was. And, you know, Angie, you know, us being, you know, stripped apart of 50 years is a long time to be stripped from, of not knowing that we had another sibling in my life. And that really breaks my heart.
Your mom's still alive?
My mom passed away 2 years ago, along with my sister.
So prior to that, she never really gave you any clarity?
No, sir.
And you reached out once again based on reading an obituary, or you were already searching for your dad and ran across an obituary? Tell me what happened.
Well, we got on the internet, was searching for him, come across his obituary, and soon enough I seen his picture. I knew exactly who he was. And I seen his family that was on the obituary, so I started searching through family members to find out what had happened to him during this time. I finally come across on Facebook, went through and just typed in people's names, asking them if they knew who my dad was. And I come across Angie and let her know. I mean, our lives are so similar, how we grew up. It was just very hard to know that Dad kept us away from each other for that so long. My dad didn't tell me nothing about having a sibling whatsoever. When I asked him, he's like, no, I'm the only child.
When did you begin searching in earnest? Because if you're going on the internet searching, you really are trying. So my question would be, were you doing that before your mother died? Because if you're going to go through all that, it would have been a lot of, I would have bugged Mama to death. I said, Mama, you got to tell me something. I'm tired of this internet. I ain't finding nothing. I'm coming up short. Make it easy on me.
She basically told me, you know, if you want to find him, you can. I mean, it was not a problem with her keeping me away, but she just did not tell me much about what was going on with him in my life. And she just thought it was best that Dad was never in my life because of what. Well, the last time I seen him was I was 21. Mm-hmm. I was in an abusive relationship, and Dad came down and gave him a little visit and told him, you know, you ever touch my daughter again, you know, we're gonna have a problem. So, you know, for my dad to come all the way from Georgia just to tell him that, there's some indication that he did care and he did want to be around. I did talk to him quite a few times, but we lost contact after his phone went disconnected. So
yeah, if he traveled cross country to protect you from a woman beater, this is the dad in discussion, right? This is Angela's dad you're making reference to as well?
Yes.
Okay. Do you know of him coming down, Angela, to be protective of Candace at any point? Have you ever heard that story?
I've never heard of her. The only memory I have was when he brought the woman and the child, and then he denied it after it happened, you know, and then he was
Well, what
sick
made
in
you
the
think
hospital.
the child was his just because he brought a child with him to introduce you? He could have been introduced you to your cousins, his brother's daughter, and his brother was at work, so let me take you and introduce you to your cousin. I don't know, I'm just saying what gave you the impression it might have been your sister, or when you reflect back. Oh, he said it.
He told me that this was my sister. But after, and they didn't stay very long, he brought her I don't know who it is. I
So
don't
at the
know.
end of life, he changed his story. Is that what you're saying?
He changed it right after it happened. Like, I would ask him questions and he said, no, that never happened. No, that never happened. So I had no indication that I had maybe possibly had a sibling, from him.
Okay, so, well, let's see what we have here. And you all have been in touch how many times?
We've talked on the on Facebook. She was calling me like a lot, and I blocked her because I thought it was I was very skeptical and weird.
Who else would know this? Your mother, she's deceased? I can't recall.
My mother's alive, and she doesn't know anything about my dad having any other children.
Your mother,
everybody said no.
And your mother, what?
My mother's deceased, along with my father.
2 years ago, wasn't it?
Yes.
Yeah, and she had never given you any information, essentially.
Oh, no, she just told me that was my dad, and that was just point blank.
Yeah, I wish she'd have been a little more thorough, because this says you're not. Yeah, so wish folks would have given you a little more clarity, ma'am, because we don't have that clarity today, and the DNA test says that you all are not sisters, you're not related. God bless you both.
Thank you, Judge.
Yeah.
I love you, whether or not you're blood or my sister.
You need to talk to your mom. I know he's our father.
I mean, he's not your dad. It's he just wasn't. I mean, but that doesn't change. He's gone. That doesn't change how I will be with you. You are my sister, but you're gonna have to come to the point to realize that you biologically wasn't his. And I'm so sorry for that, sis. I'm so sorry.
Did it hurt?